We're going to wait for some folks to join, give people a few minutes.
You can hear me fine at this volume, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would maybe turn it up just a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to pause recording until some folks. Hello.
Hello.
And welcome. We're going to get started. I am Selena Carter, Atmosphere Press's events manager. Thank you for joining us for our free live event, How to Write, Illustrate, and Publish Your Children's Book, a talk and Q&A with Dakota Reed. In this live event, you'll receive straightforward and actionable guidance as you work toward becoming a published children's book author. Dakota will walk you through how to write successfully for children, work with an illustrator to bring your story to life, and submit it for publication to a team that will help you get to your book's launch day. You'll also have the opportunity for Dakota to answer your own questions during the Q&A portion of the event. So at any time, please do use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to send your questions. You can also check the Answer tab to see answers to questions that have already been posed. We run events live because at Atmosphere, we value being able to tailor the author experience to each individual writer. And these talks and Q&As help us do that. Founded in 2015 by Nick Cartwright, an author and PhD in literature, Atmosphere Press is the only publisher who puts rewarding and meaningful author experiences above all else. We've published more than 1,200 books. Our authors have won dozens of awards, and our books have reached the hands of tens of thousands of readers. With that, I am thrilled to introduce our guest speaker. As head of the Children's Book Department, Dakota Reed guides authors through every stage of the publishing process, from shaping their manuscripts to designing interiors that bring their stories to life. She's passionate about helping each author's vision shine and making the journey feel joyful, collaborative, and creatively fulfilling. She received her MFA from the College of Charleston, where she was a Woodfin Fellow and an editorial assistant at Swamp Pink, formerly Crazyhorse. She holds a BA from the University of Georgia, where she worked on the editorial staff of the Georgia Review. Her poems have appeared in North American Review, Hayden's Ferry Review, Ghost City Review, Blood Orange Review, The Shore, and elsewhere, earning awards and honors from the Poetry Society of South Carolina, AWP, and the College of Charleston. Currently based in Brooklyn, she loves cooking, dancing, and swimming in any body of water she can find. All right, finally, all right, I'm out of breath now. I'm going to hand it over. I'm going to hand it over to Dakota.
Thank you so much, Selena. I appreciate the introduction. I'm so excited to be talking to all of you today. It's exciting to see in the chat everyone coming up and where everyone is from. We've got people here from the UK and Greece, Montgomery, Alabama, Virginia, Portland, New York, everywhere. That is so exciting to me. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to listen to me talk about children's book publishing a little bit. I'm gonna share my screen and show you guys a little presentation I have. Okay, can you guys see? Selena, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Okay, perfect. Um, we're going to talk about how to write, illustrate, and publish your children's book today. And a few of the things I'm going to go into are what writing successfully for children actually means, what editors are looking for in a manuscript, working with an illustrator, how that partnership functions, submitting your work, what we need to move forward with your book, and then a little step by step kind of about what happens between acceptance and launch day. So, um, and Selena already introduced me, so I won't go into it too much, but I am head of the children's book department at Atmosphere Press. I've been Head of the children's book department since 2021. I've worked with so many wonderful children's book authors here. And then I was working just as a developmental editor with Atmosphere before that since 2020. I'm also a freelance editor for independent children's book authors. I'm a former paraprofessional teacher for K through 12, as well as a former tutor. So I've spent a lot of time working with kids. I love kids. I love how their minds work. And that's part of why I love working on children's books. It is very exciting and meaningful to me. And I'm a big reader. I'm also a writer. I'm very passionate about storytelling, children's literature, and teaching valuable and accessible lessons to all kinds of kids. So I'll jump right in. Here are some of our awarded Atmosphere Press children's book authors. We have so many more. We've had so many Atmosphere authors receive just fantastic reviews and awards, and these are just a few of them. But I have been proud to work on a lot of these books that have won the Literary Titan Book Award, Creative Child Awards Book of the Year, Mom's Choice Award. We've been featured on the news and on podcasts, and so I'm very proud to have played a part in some of these fantastic children's books. Okay, so I'm going to move this so I can see my screen. So children's books, I don't think they necessarily follow one true prescription for the perfect children's book by any means. There's so much, you know, room to play within a children's book story. But I do think that oftentimes the best children's books have one emotional arc, they solve one problem, and they end with not only plot resolution, but emotional resolution. And I'm going to really go into the emotional aspect of that because I do think it's a really interesting part about writing children's books. So I think the best children's books also evoke a specific emotion or set of emotions, are relatable, and operate under a specific scenario, setting, or angle. So if you're thinking about writing a children's book, as far as that last bullet, are you wanting to write in a specific setting that, is meaningful to you and you think another child might connect with? Or are you taking an angle, maybe a specific experience that you had or witnessed that you think a child might connect to or feel seen within? Or a scenario that is entirely made up that you think could connect with a child and more metaphorically become meaningful. There's so much room for creativity within that. That's really exciting. And yeah, I think that's kind of a good kind of jumping off point when you're thinking about writing a children's book or you're looking at your own children's book and you're kind of wondering, do I have the ingredients here for something that children will connect with? Okay. So emotions and how to address them in children's books. Children's books work well when they meet children where they are, emotionally, developmentally, and experientially, and when they guide them forward without rushing them. I think that's really key. And like I said, there are so many emotions you can explore in a children's book. But for this example today, I'm going to talk about fear and bravery or courage, because I think we see that a lot in children's books. And I think it's really important to address. But I think the way you address these emotions, as well as all kinds of emotions, is crucial. So, for example, a story about fear isn't about teaching bravery, it's about letting a child feel seen before the bravery even arrives. So it's about the validation and letting the reader, the child, feel seen, which, I think that's so much of what literature is, whether it's for children or not, is how are we making a reader feel seen? How are we connecting to someone who might be completely different from us and not have much in common, but at the end, we're all human and we all have the same set of emotions. And I think that's so beautiful. And I feel like it's an honor to be able to write and work on books that can that can do that and that can connect people in that way. Um, Especially children, they are so much more emotionally aware and intelligent than we give them credit for. And I think giving them the tools to better understand their own feelings is huge. Um, so children don't need stories that tell them how to feel. Like I said, they are emotionally intelligent and aware, but they need stories in order to recognize how they already feel. You know, they don't always have the language, um, and stories are how they can kind of see themselves in a mirror in a book and be like, oh wait, I that's how I feel, and it helps them understand themselves and the world around them better. Um, so going back to the fear and courage, for example, a book could say, you know, fear is not a problem to fix; it's an experience to acknowledge. It's a universal experience that whoever you are, no matter where you are, you will experience at some point. Um, and then introducing bravery or courage really only works when it comes after that initial recognition. So, for example, a child afraid of the dark doesn't really need a story that says there's nothing to be afraid of. They need a story that says, I know the dark can feel really big and strange. And then once that child feels seen, courage can emerge naturally and organically. And then the resolution feels earned instead of imposed or forced upon them. So that emotional validation is what allows transformation to happen. And I think that arc is so, um, it can be delicate, but I don't know. I think it is so possible to make happen in a book, and it is so special when you can kind of create that. Um, so yeah, that is kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about with writing a children's book. I think it's just an exciting and fun topic with so much room to play. Um, so now I'm gonna go. Oops. So working with an illustrator. Um, while authors are more than welcome to outsource their own illustrators, and I have worked with authors who have their children illustrate their books or their next door neighbor or a family friend, and that is wonderful and perfectly welcome here at Atmosphere. But in case we have authors that come to us and are like, where do I find an illustrator? How does that even work? You know, it can be a really daunting concept. We do have an excellent set of in-house illustrators that we work with. And these are just a few of them. We have several more, um, but these are just a few. And our website has all of them listed, and all of them have, you know, portfolio samples you can look at. But it has been an honor to work with a few of these illustrators. It's always so exciting to see a book go from, you know, just some ideas and then seeing these characters and these settings come to life. Um, and then a little bit more on working with an illustrator. So it's a collaborative and author-led vision. Um, the author sets the vision for the book, and the illustrator helps bring that vision into full expression. And I mean, every relationship with an author and an illustrator is going to be slightly different. Similar to a children's book, there's no singular right way. But there are some things that I think make the relationship more successful and make the book come to fruition more seamlessly and beautifully. Um, so the author's role is really the keeper of the story's core. Um, you don't need to know exactly how everything should look. You don't need to have a plan for every single page. You can, but you really just need to understand what the story is about emotionally. What is the tone of the world that you're creating? What is the feeling? What is the vibe? And how do you want the reader to feel? Do you want the reader to feel empowered? Do you want the reader to feel safe and cozy? Do you want the reader to feel curious? I think those are all great questions to ask yourself when you're writing a children's book and when you're considering illustration. Um, and where the authors should lead in this relationship is really, you know, story and structure, of course, emotional arc, and tone and intention. So also all questions to ask yourself. during the illustration process, especially. It's how do we preserve the integrity of this book while also giving the illustrator the freedom to really make it come to life because that's their expertise. And so where the illustrators support and expand upon this is in the visual interpretation of the story's mood and movement, um, character design that deepens emotion, and then world building that adds texture and meaning. So those are all places the illustrators can kind of help really bring things to life. But as you can see, authors and illustrators really it's a very collaborative relationship, and both roles are so important um, in creating something really special. Okay, so submitting your manuscript. Um, Submitting is an invitation to share your work, and acceptance is a really meaningful step forward into creative partnership. Not every book is right for every single moment, but when a manuscript moves forward with us, it's because we see real potential in the work and the author behind it. So I'm kind of just giving some information for those who might feel curious about submitting, but don't totally know, um, how to approach that. Again, similar to illustration, it can feel daunting and intimidating to know where to start and to know, do I have something that's ready? Will someone want to read this? So I think what helps a submission feel strong and supported is first when you have a clear sense of who the book is for. And that doesn't mean that you have to know the exact age range of your book. That's something that, as the editor, I can kind of help you narrow down and, hone the story to fit that. But you kind of have to have an idea, is this for kids who experience this? Is this for really young kids who are experiencing this for the first time? In a general way, that's kind of what you want to be thinking about. Um, and then a complete manuscript that reflects care and intention. It does not have to be perfect by any means, but we want to see that you put care and time and thought into it. And then lastly, a willingness to shape the book collaboratively. Um, we are very author forward at Atmosphere Press, and we will never overstep and force you to change your vision in any way. But we are here to kind of help make it the best version of itself, and it's always going to be best when an author comes in with a willingness to kind of collaborate. Um, and so, kind of back to the second bullet, we really are less interested in perfection than we are in possibility. You don't have to wait until you feel like the manuscript is just 100% polished. We are excited to see your rough draft as long as we know, you know, you have put time and care into it, and we can tell. And so after submission, what usually happens is a careful editorial reading, thoughtful feedback aimed at strengthening the book, making it the best version of itself, and then conversations about the vision, the timing, and next steps. And then how you as the author can prepare is be open to revision as part of the creative process. Be ready to talk about goals for the book as well as for yourself. And then understand that development is a sign of commitment, not correction. So if we're putting in the time to make your book better, it's because we are invested in it and we like it and we are excited for it, not because we think it's flawed and nothing like that. It is a sign of care. And every book we publish represents a very deliberate choice, and a choice that we are proud to stand behind. We love the books we publish, and we are always so excited to see them out in the world. So I'm gonna go to our next one here. And then this is just a really brief step-by-step from acceptance to launch day. There's so much more behind the scenes, and if you are one of our authors, you know that there is more to it than this, but simplified. We jump right into editorial development and revisions. From there, we would go into illustrator pairing and art development, and then interior design and layout. Once that is done, we go into cover design. And then once an author receives their proof copy, they get to go into the really exciting process of sales, marketing, distribution planning, really kind of extending that vision for their book, and then launch preparation and then publication, which is very exciting. So in summary, the goal is not just to publish a children's book, it's to create something that children can connect with and will want to return to again and again. And that takes time, care, creativity, and partnership. And we really are so proud to bring those stories to life. I I really can't say enough how much I love working on children's books, and I love my authors, and I love so many of my repeat authors that I get to work on book after book with them. So I am, yeah, thankful to be in this position talking to you guys all about one of my favorite things. Um, and then if you have any questions about publishing your children's book, please feel free to write to me directly. It's Dakota@atmospherepress.com. I would love to chat, would love to work together on your children's book if you have one you're interested in submitting. And thank you so much for joining and listening to me gush about children's books. I hope it was informative and enjoyable. Thanks.
Thank you, Dakota. That was very insightful. Um, in the interest of time, I want to go to some Q&A. We have about 7 or so minutes, and so I'm going to just jump right in. We have a question from Gail, and it is illustrating your own book possible, or would you not recommend this?
Great question. Yes, illustrating your own book is totally possible. I have worked with many authors who illustrate their own books. I think it's exciting to see that come to life when it is the writing and the illustrating together. The biggest thing I tell people who are illustrating their own books, or having a family friend or someone they know do it, is the key is just scanning it to make sure it is of the highest resolution. That is sort of the most important thing, is just preserving the quality of those images. But yes, absolutely, it is always fun to see manuscripts come in where the author also illustrated them. Definitely.
Nice. Okay. That makes me think of Shel Silverstein, but
Yeah.
that's poetry. But um, what is I'm gonna try to get two more in because then we have to wrap up in the interest of time. But what is the average time from reviewing rough draft to publication?
So it really varies. And at Atmosphere, we work at the author's own pace. So it really kind of depends on you as the author. I would say, with traditional publishing, I think it can usually take several years. At Atmosphere, we have a pretty streamlined process, and as long as the author is sort of wanting to work at a certain pace, it can take anywhere from, maybe 8 months to a year and a half, I would say. Again, that's so rough because it really varies. It varies also depending on, are you coming in with finished illustrations or are we outsourcing? So it really depends, but again, we do work at an author's pace, and we have a pretty great streamlined process. So
Great. And we have a question that says, I have used some illustrations from an app. Are those allowed or do I need to obtain permission?
that's a good question. I'm not entirely sure because it would depend on the app itself. Um, I do have some authors very recently who are using, you know, AI illustrations. And I do think you can do that, but we would definitely need to do the research and make sure that you have the full permission. So it would depend on the app or the website itself.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm gonna squeeze one more in, okay?
Okay.
Just quickly, and then I'll close this out. Um, roughly how many pages should a children's book be?
That is a great question. There's not like a single ideal number, but I would say 24 is the minimum. And I usually try to encourage authors to cap it at around 36. And also, I want to just bear in mind that that is including front matter and back matter. So that's including title page, copyright, dedication, author bio page. So, as editor, I work on paginating manuscripts with the authors. So that's something we can work on together and make sure it's a good length. But yeah, we try to stick between 24 and 36 pages for the total book, if that's helpful.
Yes, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna stop us from sharing here, and then I'm gonna close this out. Thank you all for submitting your questions, and I apologize that we couldn't get to all of them, but you can still email Dakota at atmospherepress.com, so that's an option. And let's see here. Okay. That so we're going to say that being said, thank you again so much to Dakota Reed for sharing your experience, your time, and your wisdom today. And thank you to everyone for being here and for sending in your thoughtful questions. If you're a writer looking for a rewarding and meaningful publishing experience, check out the links in the chat and visit us at atmospherepress.com. There you can sign up for our email newsletter, browse our new and forthcoming releases, meet the humans behind Atmosphere Press, check out our testimonials, and of course, submit your manuscript. Remember, if you have questions about publishing your children's book, you can write to Dakota again at dakota@atmospherepress.com. And this webinar will be on YouTube, our Atmosphere Press's YouTube tomorrow, so you can rewatch it and really study some of the things that Dakota said today. And we look forward to staying in touch with all of you. And on behalf of Atmosphere Press, have a great rest of your week, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.